Hello.
Throughout the weekend, Professor. I'll attach it to the homework.
All
Or
right,
you can.
whatever's easiest for you, Christian.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. I'm on your side. I'm on your team. Did you speak to your counselor?
Yes.
Good, 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 good. She's very nice. I've been corresponding with her.
Yeah.
You're very lucky. Yeah,
She's
she's good.
actually my advisor for this semester.
Oh, great, 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 great. Hi, Tiffany.
Good afternoon, Professor.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Nice to see you.
Likewise.
I've told you I love the drawing behind you. Can I just see a little? Hold your camera. Did you do that?
No,
Where is it
a
from?
friend of mine did.
Yeah, very nice.
Thank
I have
you.
to, I have to show you my pottery someday.
Yeah.
I do art. Hi, Daisy. Hello, Daisy. Can I see you?
I have
Hi,
paintings that I
Professor.
painted, but
Hi. How are you?
I'm good.
Having lunch?
Yeah.
Good, good, good. Okay. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Atta, hello.
Professor!
All right. Here you are in your little home.
Yeah, away from home.
How you feeling?
Better, fortunately, thank God. I feel much better. Last week, if you had asked me 105 degrees fever, I was dead.
Oh my gosh. Are you fasting?
I am, yeah.
All right. All right. Peace be with you. All
How are
right.
you, Professor?
I'm good. I'm good. Busy, very busy, taking it a day at a time. It's getting very cold out, so
It's
I'm-
raining outside.
it's raining.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh. All right. Good to see you.
you too, Professor.
Tiffany, what were you saying about art? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
that I actually have a couple paintings
Oh
that
yeah?
I've done myself.
Can you take a picture and send it to me?
Yeah, sure.
I'd love to see. I'm looking around my room here for pottery that I've done. I have a piece. Hold on a minute. This is something I did a long time ago. Can you see it?
Yeah, nice. Is it supposed to be like a city
Yeah,
inspired
right.
pottery?
I put city buildings on my pottery. It was a drinking mug, and then the handle broke off. But I use it now for coins and stuff. But I love this pot.
How difficult is it to do pottery?
I actually got into work on the wheel is gets frustrating. Hand building is a lot of fun. I sort of got into hand building the last few years because it's more fun. Throwing on the
Yeah,
wheel can be frustrating.
'cause I was thinking of taking like a couple classes to
Yeah, you ought to
learn.
try it. You ought to try it. So let me know whether you like it or not. I
Okay.
yeah, I've started to work in porcelain actually. So it was you ought to try it. It's a nice one. It's very nice. Hi Isadora. Good to see
Hello, how
you.
are you?
Thanks for the backup today.
For sure. My pleasure.
Jason.
Hello, Professor.
Can I get a look at you?
Yes. Wait, can you see me? Oh,
Yes, there you are. Okay.
how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. It's getting chilly out.
Yeah.
I like to go for walks, but it's getting a little, and so it's raining and
Yeah, I think it's drizzling outside, isn't it?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I'm in the mountains. I'm up here in the Catskills. So they said there's going to be snow this weekend.
Jeez.
Careful.
Yeah.
Is it gonna be a lot though?
I got this warning. They said there was going to be a snowstorm up here in the mountains. And then electrical lines might come down.
Oh man, stay safe.
Yeah, yeah,
And upstates is possible.
yeah. Sarkar, how are you?
Good. How are you, Professor?
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
Hmm.
Saima. Saima,
Hi, Professor.
nice to see you. Can I get a wave hello? Okay, very nice. Jonathan,
Oh,
Hello.
hi, Jonathan.
Hi.
Can I get a wave hello?
Yes. I don't know if you can see me.
I can't see, it's dark, but
You see me waving my hand
it
at
looks,
least?
I can't, no, I don't see your hand either.
It's dark right now.
And Jonathan, send me a picture. Send me a picture of you. Send me a picture of you. Hey, Luis,
Afternoon, Professor.
nice to, can I see you? Can I get a wave?
Oh, sorry, I still don't have a webcam right now.
Oh, okay, okay. Send me a picture of you, okay? Send
Okay.
me an email picture of you. Carmela, where are you? California?
Yes.
Look at you.
Yeah.
Are you not feeling well? Is it cold? What is going on?
It is cold, but it's California cold. Like it's 61 degrees. It's much too cold for me.
Well, New York, where I am, it's 54 degrees and it's raining and it's drizzling. So, well, good to
That's
see
so
you.
good, isn't it?
Good to see you. Hi, Narissa.
Hi, Professor. Good afternoon.
Can I get a quick hello, wave hello? Nice to see you. Hi, Brian.
Hey, Professor Lieberman.
Can I get a quick hello, quick wave?
I got you.
There you are. Nice to see you, Brian.
Yeah.
Professor,
Uh-huh.
I had taken a clip of our last class of you talking about the protesting and stuff. And I posted it on my Instagram story, and everyone was like replying to it being like, this professor looks cool, like what class is this, like he's so dope, like this is so cool, like he seems like such a fun like teacher, all this stuff.
Can you send that to me?
The video?
Well, can you send it to all of us?
Yeah.
Or I don't know, send it to Oleg and he can send it to everybody.
It was a clip of you saying that you protested in the 60s.
Yeah, send it to me or Oleg or both of us or Isadora and
Okay.
and then we'll send it to the whole class.
No.
Okay, dope.
All right? And I'll
Okay.
show it to my wife.
Okay. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for making me a celebrity.
I mean, you know, it's my job.
Pedro, hello. Can I get a wave hello, Pedro?
You gotta turn on my camera.
Turn your camera on from just so I can see you and say hello to you.
My camera's not turning on.
Oh, okay. Send me a picture of you, okay?
All right.
All right, thank you.
What?
Ivan.
Hi,
Good to
Professor.
see you.
How are you doing?
All right. Drizzling out there?
Yep.
Yeah, it's supposed to snow here.
Really? Oh, you're
Yeah.
upstate, right?
I'm upstate. I'm in the Catskills, and they said I got an alert from the electric company saying there's going to be a snowstorm and wires could come down and all this stuff.
Wow.
That's scary. Yeah.
In the spring, too.
I'll let you know. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you, too.
Arbaz.
Hey, Professor, how you doing?
All right, give me a quick wave hello.
I'm waving at you, brother. I believe it.
You don't have your camera?
No, I only have a headset, sir. I apologize.
That's okay. Send me a picture of you, okay?
No problem.
All right, I think we better start. I think we've got enough students to start. All right, so just a reminder that the 4 questions based on the British and slavery and the 1741 slave rebellion. 4 questions, your 4 favorite questions are due Monday. I already have the ones you did in class, and so your 4 favorite questions are due Monday. Today, did you all get, I sent you the questions for today. Did you all get that? I sent it quite recently, like in the last half hour. So if anybody didn't get the 4 questions, could you send a note to Oleg or Isadora in the chat and they can send you the 4 questions? So what we're going to do today is the American Revolution in New York City. So we're leaving colonialism, we're leaving the British behind, we're leaving colonial New York, and we're moving forward into the American Revolution and what, basically to answer the question of what happened in New York during the American Revolution. I want to admit to you that I've never taught this before. For some reason, in my 50 years of teaching at LaGuardia, I have never taught the American Revolution in New York. So this is a first in your class, and I just decided I wanted to do it and prepared for it and worked with Oleg on the video. And so get ready for a first-time Lieberman attempt to teach the American Revolution in New York City. And I'm a little bit excited about it too. So the lesson today is basically for you to not only see me as a source of information, but also to finally in this class, we have figured out the video, to see video and film as a source of information. So far in this class, we've seen the text, Gotham, we've seen Restless City, we've seen primary sources, we've seen each other, we've used 4 sources to quote from in answering our question. And today I'm introducing another source for you to cite, which is the video. And when you cite it, all you have to do is say in the brackets, NYC video. That's all I want when you're quoting from the video. So no fancy citation. And what I'm going to do, and you can, when you quote me, you just put in brackets RKL. I'm going to give you a brief overview of my favorite parts of the video and what I found enjoyable in the video. And you can take notes on that and use whatever I say, excuse me, to answer the questions. Also, then we'll view the video and take notes on the video in terms of the 4 questions. So take a look now at the 4 questions I sent you about a half hour ago. So you have them in mind when I start talking about, what I enjoyed about the video. And before I start, does anybody have any questions about what I'm about to do, or about this course, or about anything relating to the history of New York City as we've approached it up to this point? Anybody have any burning questions they want to ask, or anything on their mind? Okay, well, if you do, if you do have something, then send me an email. And Oleg, you'll send me the participant list so I can do attendance. Thank you. So looking at the revolution and looking at the video we're about to see, and my sense of what is presented in terms of New York, one of the things I would emphasize, which surprised me and I think is important to note, is that when the revolution was on the horizon, meaning that it had started in Lexington and Concord, blood had been shed in Massachusetts, and New Yorkers knew that the revolution was coming here, 80% of the city leaves the city. In other words, the city in 1770 and 1773 had 25,000 people. 80% of those people, and if you do the math, somebody who's good at math, do 80% of 25,000, what do you get? How many people are leaving? Let's see, 10%. Christian, do you have the number? 10% would be 2,500. So it'd be 8 times 2,500, it'd be 16,000, 8 times. So 20,000 people leave the city, and 5,000 people are left in New York City by the end of 1775. You know, when I sort of saw that in the video and I was thinking about it, I don't know about you, but it reminded me of when COVID hit and everybody was leaving the city, including me. And the city became so empty. And I sort of reflected on that. Well, the city was in a panic. The revolution was coming towards New York. And the British needed New York. And New York knew that. New York was sort of the center between Massachusetts and Virginia. New York was a crucial place for the British to take. And the general, George Washington, who was leading the revolution, he knew that too. And Washington takes the troops in the spring of 1776, and they go to New York. And so the first battle, and this really surprised me, the first big battle of the American Revolution happens in New York. I love that. And hold on, and it happens in Brooklyn. And I just thought that was so great to sort of be seeing that and to be thinking about that, that here is George Washington. Everybody knows George Washington. Okay, so we're talking about him as the general of the forces, the general of the forces that are fighting the revolution. And where does he go? Where does Washington go when the revolution breaks out? When the revolution breaks out in Lexington and Concord, he doesn't go to Boston. He doesn't go to Philadelphia. He goes to New York because he realizes the strategic, if you look at the map, he realizes that New York would be the place the British would want to take. It's strategically located halfway between the Massachusetts Bay Colony and the Virginia Colony. And he realizes right away that they're going to strike at New York first. That's going to be where they go. And so he goes to New York, and in June of 1776, June 29th, people in New York wake up, they look outside, and there are 1,000 British warships in the harbor. Think about this. You wake up one morning, you look out your window, and there's like 1,000 pine trees have arrived. There's 1,000 British warships in the harbor, and they're bringing 10,000 sailors in order to capture New York. It took them 6 weeks to get off the boats and put themselves in position on Staten Island. And on July 9th of 1776, New York gets ready for war. The Declaration of Independence is read in Manhattan. They pull down the statue of King George, and Washington says, I have to defend Manhattan, right? That's really what they want to capture. How will I defend Manhattan? Well, think about this. You've heard, those of you who live in Brooklyn know about Brooklyn Heights, know that the bluffs of Brooklyn, the heights of Brooklyn overlook the harbor. So he doesn't go to Manhattan to defend Manhattan because he figures if he goes to Manhattan, the British are going to take Brooklyn and then fire down on him. So strategically, he goes to the Brooklyn Heights. And in August of 1776, there is the Battle of Brooklyn. There's Washington and 2,000 troops battling 20,000 British soldiers in Brooklyn. And it's a disaster for Washington. He gambled and he lost. And he's losing men. He loses a fourth of his troops. And he decides he's retreating through Brooklyn, through Queens. And he basically decides, we've got to get out of here. And so in August of 1776, August 29th, after losing a fourth of his army, Washington says, we got to get out of here. And in 7 hours, in the middle of the night, they ferry all of the troops, all of the revolutionary troops under Washington who are left, who are still alive, across the East River so that the British don't even hear them and don't see them, quietly go into Manhattan and then start going up the coast of Manhattan. The British realize once the troops get to Manhattan that they're there, they start battling, and Washington takes the troops up Manhattan, but he saved the army that night. And I want to make this point very clear. What Washington decided to do is that he's got a small army. He's up against the British, right? The only thing I think of to compare it to is the Vietnam War, where this small country, Vietnam, is facing the United States. And the best defense is just to keep the war going. In other words, protect the army. Forget about the place. You can lose these battles, but keep protecting the army. And Washington made that decision that night in Brooklyn in August of 1776. The strategic decision he made was the realization, I'm outnumbered. If I try to defend Brooklyn, I'll just lose everybody. So the way to win this war is just to keep the war going and protect my troops. And he leaves Manhattan, and in November of 1776, he abandons Manhattan, but he does it to protect the army. And the British destroy New York. Not only do they destroy New York, but after the British occupy New York, fire breaks out, 500 buildings burn. There's no fire brigade to protect the city. And the city is totally leveled, totally destroyed. It becomes sort of the base of supplies for the British. The war continues for another 7 years. And only when the French enter the war and the Dutch lend money to Washington, does the war start to turn. And when the French come in, and when Lafayette comes in and says, we're going to bring the French in to support the revolution, they say, what do you need, Washington? He said, I need money, and I want to go take back New York. It's the first thing he says to Lafayette. When Lafayette comes to Washington and says, all right, we're going to get the Dutch, we're going to give you money, we're going to bring in troops, we're going to help you win this war. What do you want to do first? What's the first thing you want to do to really win this war? And he says, let's get New York back. New York is the key. And as we know now, they win. England surrenders. In November of 1783, the British surrender. By the way, they surrender in the same fort where Stuyvesant gave up New Amsterdam to the British. And after the war, the city was leveled. The city was in ruin. Thousands of people had left. No, you gotta know this, you gotta write this down and think about this. No other American city was so destroyed. New York was destroyed more than any other city in the colonies. So little survived that today there are no walking tours of colonial New York. There are no places you can go to see 18th century or 17th century New York. You go to Philadelphia, you go to Boston, right? You go on these tours, they say, oh yeah, this was during the colonial period and this. There's none of that in New York. I think there are 4 buildings left from the 18th century. So little survived. So in the end, we are this depopulated, leaderless town. So by 1783, after the revolution, New York is leveled. It has no population, has buildings that have been burned down. And within the next 50 years, from 1783 to 1833, New York, I get emotional when I say this, New York emerges in those 50 years as the most important city in the Western Hemisphere. Now, how do we do that? How does New York come out of the ashes and within a half a century becomes the city that we know today, that we hopefully will recreate, but the city that is so important? How does New York do that? That'll be something we talk about next week. But you should know that the American Revolution leveled this city, destroyed this city. And and you should know that the first battles of the revolution were fought in Brooklyn. And you should know that Washington established his whole strategy here in New York when he was being beaten so badly by the British. And you should also know that when Lafayette comes in and says to Washington, okay, I'm going to help you, what's the first thing you want to do? Washington says, I want to get back New York. We've got to get back New York. Okay, those are my favorite parts of the video. Those are my favorite parts of the story in preparing this lesson for you. Before we watch the video, does anybody have questions for me about what I've just said?
Oh, didn't I've read somewhere that Washington, like this is where like he referred to New York City as like the Empire State, like the nickname.
Okay. Oh, I love Lewis. Great question. So there is a letter that Hamilton, who we'll talk about next week, Alexander Hamilton, made famous now by the show, is Washington's aide de camp. Hamilton is very close to Washington. He is his go-to guy, chief of staff, major consultant to Washington. And so when they're corresponding after the war's over, and they're corresponding about the future of the country, right? Hamilton, not Washington, Hamilton says to Washington, and this is probably what you read, Lewis, that he says to Washington in a letter, you should be king, right? You should be king of this new country. Washington, as you might have guessed, rejects that idea. And it should be, and it should be called an empire. And the center of the empire of the new country that you will rule over should be New York. Now, why does Hamilton designate New York? Because Hamilton's a New Yorker and he wants New York to be the center of the empire. And so he writes to Washington that New York, and this is what you read, Lewis, New York should be the center of that empire. And to this day, right? What is the nickname for New York?
Empire State.
The empire, it comes from the correspondence, Lewis, that you saw somewhere between Alexander Hamilton and George Washington, when Hamilton is trying to convince Washington to be the king of the new empire, and the center of the empire will be here in New York. So thanks for opening that up. And I love that story.
Oh, okay.
Who else has a question?
Professor,
Yes.
who was Lafayette?
Who was Lafayette? He was the general of the French army that, and head of the military, head of the Navy, that basically the French see an alliance for the freedom that we're fighting for equality, for fraternity, for justice. And the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States is based on French philosophers. And Lafayette and France, in the revolution that they will have in France, look at the revolution in this country as the basis for that revolution. So Lafayette is basically supporting this revolution because the French Revolution is basically part of the same time period. And he was leading the military, and he was leading the forces, and comes in to help Washington. You should Google Lafayette, because there's probably much more that I left out that I'm trying to remember. But will you Google that and then let the rest of us know, Christian?
That's fine. And also, what is an alliance?
What is an alliance? Oh, I love that. Anybody want to jump in on that and talk about what an alliance is?
Yeah, that's when two or more nations join up together. So they help each other, whether it's trade alliance or like military alliance. So in this case, the United States accepted help from France, and they actually helped us overturn the Revolutionary War.
Right. And the other word that comes out of that is to talk about an ally, right? That we're allies, we're friends, we're buddies, we're connected in some way. In other wars, I'm thinking of World War II, those who fought together with the United States were called our allies. You know, it was called the Allied Forces. So this is a term that's used, as Ivan is saying, to mean sort of a connection that you have, an alliance, an agreement to be together. Other questions? All right, look at the 4 questions I sent you earlier and see, before we look at the video, see if I touched on those 4 questions and you have any questions for me based on these 4 questions. Hopefully everybody has them, and if you don't, then send a chat to Oleg or Isidore, they can send it to you. Everybody good?
Hey, Professor.
Yes.
So we have to answer this question after watch the video.
After you watch the video, if we have time, we'll go into our breakout groups and each group will get one of the questions. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions on my questions or on my presentation before we watch the video? All right, Oleg, let's try it. Our first go at a video. Here we go. Good luck to the presentation and from the video before we break into groups. Anybody have a question on the video you just saw or the overview I gave of the video? Anybody? Oleg, could you unmute everybody?
They have to do it by itself.
All right, so if you want to say something, you'll have to unmute yourself. Anybody have any questions, any comments, anything you want to say before we break up into groups?
What do they mean when at the end when it said that New York wasn't that? I'm not sure how they said it, but that they said that New York wasn't as famous as it looks to be now.
Well, I think what you're saying is that something I said and something that Ken Jackson says in the video is that New York was destroyed and leveled and burned out with no population and very few buildings left at the end of the war. So for you to summarize it and say it didn't look like it looked now is one way to say it, and another way to say it, and the question to raise is, how did we rebuild ourselves? What happened after 1783 within the next 50 years for New York to emerge as one of the most important cities in the Western Hemisphere? I think that's another way to look at it.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions, comments before we break into groups? Okay, so Oleg, how many students do we have?
17.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, we got everybody. Okay, so let's break up into 4 groups, and one group will have 5, 3 groups will have 4. The math works. 3 times 4 is 12, and a group with 5 is 17, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so group 1 will do question 1, group 2, question 2, group 3, question 3, and group 4, question 4. It's now 1:42. So you don't have to write anything, just talk to each other and designate somebody who will present the answer to the rest of the class. We'll bring you back in 10 minutes, okay? So no writing will go on, except group 4 will talk about what type of email you would write to a friend or family member. But Oleg, break everybody up into 4 groups, and group 1 gets question 1, 2, question 2, 3, 4, 4, and 5 people in group 4. See you in 10 minutes.
6. Hold on.
Trouble?
Oh, no. Okay. Think.
So,
Oh, I put Isidora in group.
that's all right. Put
Okay.
Jonathan in another, but make sure there are 3 groups of 4 and 1 group of 5. It doesn't matter.
Yeah,
where you
yeah.
are.
Jonathan in group 3. Oh, okay.
Okay, so we have 17 students or 16?
17.
Okay, let's go, take me to group 1.
Group 1. Hold on.
And let me set my timer for 10 minutes.
And give me.
Hello?
Hey, Professor.
Okay, how's everybody in group 1?
Good. How you doing, Professor?
Okay, any
Okay, so we decided for number 1, our answer. It's also the answer to number 2, but we really thought it was interesting, so we stuck with that. It's talks about how Washington led them up the East River through the middle of the night and somehow managed to do it within 7 hours, and how he commandeered ships and boats from local fishermen as well. And we just thought it was a crazy story, because if you consider the situation at the time, I think most, not even general, just most men would be scared. And somehow he was able to muster up the courage to take the men and get them out of there safely.
And did it strike you? What struck me is that, you learn all about the American Revolution, blah, 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 that this significant moment in the revolution happens in Queens. I mean, if you think about it, Washington's in this Battle of Brooklyn and he retreats, but part of that retreating is going through Queens. And his leaving, my guess, his leaving is really from Queens. It's not from Brooklyn, because I've traced that trail, and it's actually this major moment in the revolution happens in Newtown. It happens in Queens, and that really has always gotten me. So it's a big story, and I agree. It's really quite a surprise when you think about it. Everybody always says American Revolution. I think such an important moment, and the skill of getting so many people so quietly out of town. All right, group 2, do you want to add anything to that story? Hello, group 2.
Francesco, you want to talk?
Hello, Francesca.
Well, I'll just say it. So after the battle in Brooklyn, George Washington, he lost almost 1/4 of his troops. So he took a ferry across the East River to Manhattan to escape war since he lost so many soldiers. And like our boss said, he did that all in 7 hours, which was very, very risky, but very courageous too.
Imagine going across the East River in the fog at night and trying to get 7,000 people across quietly so the British don't find you and sink all your boats and attack you. And an amazing story. It's an amazing story. And the decision of Washington saying, okay, I'm going to give up the place, but I'm going to protect the troops, which is what he did throughout the war. Group 3.
Yes, Professor.
Yeah. What did you have for group for describing?
Well, yeah, I think we got the easiest question. But basically, after the war, New York City was devastated. They say like over 30% of all the battles of the American Revolution were fought in New York, and all the major battles were definitely fought here. And like you mentioned earlier, you can't visit any colonial sites here in New York City. Like like you said, there's no tours, there's nothing. You know, I've been to Boston and Philadelphia, and you can always do cool tours of you know, different houses and different places where things occurred, but not in New York City. So, you know, it's true what you said. It was just leveled basically.
Yeah,
And all the houses being made of wood didn't help much either.
I mean, it's an amazing story when you think about the tourism of New York, that we have no colonial history left. It's all gone. There's nothing. And you, as you said, Ivan, you go to Boston, you go to Philadelphia, you get these tours. What do we have? All we have is really the 19th century. So it's an amazing statement. Okay, group 4. What would you, of all of that we've been talking about, what would you tell a family member or friend about everything you heard from me, from others, from the video? Somebody from group 4, take us home. Group 4.
Luis, Narisa, Pedro,
Luis, Narisa, Pedro,
Tiffany.
Tiffany, somebody from group 4. What would you write to a family member or a friend about what you found most interesting in today's class? They're all muted. Can you unmute?
I can only ask to unmute.
Is anybody in group 4 able to unmute themselves? Ola, can you unmute them all?
I cannot. I have to ask them. I ask them to unmute.
Fine, and I'll say something.
It's 2 o'clock. Pedro.
Okay. My Zoom logged out when you were talking about stuff, so I don't know a lot of things. So
I heard the last bit of the video, but so then based on what I heard was that New York was based on like loss for most part because I don't know everything. I'm sorry for that.
That's okay. That's okay. Is somebody else in your group can talk to the point? Tiffany, Luis, who else is in group 4? Oleg. You're muted too now.
I'm muted.
Who
Yeah.
else is in group 4?
Hold on. Group 4, Luis, Narisa, Pedro, Sarkar, and
All right.
Tiffany.
Luis, Narissa, Tiffany. What did you find most interesting?
Yes, Professor, I just heard my name. My
Yeah.
internet connection is a bit unstable. Sorry about that.
So what would you write to a family member or a friend about today's class?
I would say that the city was completely destroyed, that it was devastated after the American Revolution. I found that to be very interesting.
I think it surprises most people, I think. So what we're going to be looking at next week and probably for the certainly for next week is how we rebuilt ourselves and how we emerge out of these ashes and become this significant city in the Western Hemisphere. Anybody have any questions before we go? Everybody good? Okay.
Professor,
Yes.
can you email me the recording of the class?
Yes, Oleg. Send Christian a link to the recording of the class. Anybody else who wants to see a link to the recording of the class, send Oleg a note and he'll send you the link. Okay. Take care, everybody. See you Tuesday.
See
Have
ya.
a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye,
Bye,
Professor.
Professor.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Take care.
Have a good weekend, Professor.
Okay, see you next week. See you Tuesday. Stay warm.
Well, thank you, Professor. Bye.
Bye, Nerissa.
Have a good day, Professor.
Take care, son.